Guys, this is Trey here with Whirlwind Games. This is Chris Hall. He topped our locals tonight. Chris, what'd you play, man?
I played Zombie World Eldlich.
Okay, awesome. What were some of your matchups, and kind of go over that a little bit?
Played against Phantom Knights, Flew Under Reese, and I can't really remember the other two that I played against. Played
Okay.
4 of them.
All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and get right into your deck profile, man.
Okay. I played 3, Eldlich the Golden Lord himself. A lot of people like to run this at 2.
I think I put this.
I think it's better at 3 because a lot of people, especially in this locals, they're wise and they know to banish it from your graveyard. So I think 3 is really good with this card. The grind game with Eldlich is so strong just because Eldlich can go back from your graveyard to your hand, summon, put him in your hand, send a spell trap, target one of your opponent's monsters, spell traps, whatever. Got a great grind game. After that, I played 2 Doom King Baller Drock. 3, you don't want to see 3, you'll brick with it. 1, not enough. 2 is a really good number. 2, Necro World Banshee. I want to upgrade this to 3 and then play Zombie World at 2. Right now I'm playing 2 Necro World Banshee and 3 Zombie World. I want to switch that.
Okay, then, so why do you want to switch that ratio?
It's a lot easier to add him. It's a lot easier to get Necro World on the field than it is Zombie World. You can't really search Zombie World. I don't play Terraforming or Metaverse, but any of the Eldlich support cards can summon this. And then you can link it off, and then from the graveyard, you can activate its effect to activate Zombie World. Or if they try to negate it or anything, you can just chain this and get off the field. I think this is just a better option. If you do happen to hard draw Zombie World, then of course you're going to play it and you're going to normal summon this, and that'll give you some protection until the end of your opponent's turn. Then you can continue your plays, link off, do whatever. And then I think that, the last zombie card I played, just 1 Glow Up Bloom. This is a really, really good card. As long as you have Zombie World in the field, if it's sent to the graveyard, literally anyway, deck to graveyard, hand to graveyard, field to graveyard, whatever, you can activate its effect to banish. And then as long as Zombie World's on the field, you can special summon any level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck. So it's really good to special summon Doom King off of it, but you could also special summon Eldlich. Doom King's great. You activate its effect 2 times per turn. You can negate 1 monster effect as long as it's a zombie, which if you're playing Zombie World, all monsters on the field and graveyards are. You can also banish a monster non-targeting. That's a great way to get rid of stuff like Dragoon if you time it right. That's the only zombie monsters I'm playing. I am playing 3 Lava Golem.
Okay.
I got some crap from that tonight by some people, but I used it 3 times in 4 games, and it really helps break boards. You could also use Dark Ruler for sure. They're both good, but I like this card.
Okay, so what's kind of your deck theory behind maining the 3 Lava Golem?
I want a way to get rid of my opponent's board, just try to break up some of their monsters. I don't currently have Lightning Storms. I would like to get some. I would consider running those instead. I have Dark Ruler in the side deck if I need it. If I really need if I'm going up against something like Drytron, I want a bunch of... If I want a lot of ways to try and get rid of my opponent's monsters, then I'm going to, of course, increase that. But I think 3 is good. It gets rid of 2 of your opponent's monsters, and they can't negate it. It's like a kaiju, they can't negate it. They can prevent it with something like Barrier the Statue, the Stormwinds, but they can't negate it, so that's why I like it.
Okay.
So onto the spells. I am playing 3 Zombie World, but like I said, I'd like to go down to 2 and then 3 of the Necro World. It's still the same. It's 5 ways to get to it either way, but I think that there's more recursion off of that. Also, if you have Necro World on the field and Doom King on the field, and you don't have Zombie World on the field, you can activate Necro and then chain Doom King to banish one of your opponent's monsters. So it's a free plus, and you get Zombie World on the field. Okay, then I play 3 Cursed Eldland. I used to run 2. I just now picked up my 3rd copy of this. Great card, getting Eldlich in the hand. As long as your opponent doesn't have a lot of negates, it's really easy to get rid of one of your opponent's cards. If you already have him in the hand, you can add a spell or trap. The Golden Lands, they all have recursion in the graveyard. The Golden Lands in the end phase banish to add one of the Eldlich spell traps, and the Eldlich spell traps you can banish pretty much any time. Black Awakening, which I play 2 of, that's a spell speed 1, so you can only use it in your main phase. But the other cards, like which we'll get to in a minute, Scarlet Sanguine, that's a trap, so it can be used at any phase of the game. That's good. A lot of players do not play this card. Most decks do not play it. I think it's a really good card. It's a special summon 1 zombie from the deck, a mini zombie, as long as you control Eldlich. If you don't, you have to summon Eldlich. It summons them in defense position. I used to run Uni Zombie in this deck, but that's just an Ash target. Like, it almost always gets negated. So I just decided to run other things that have more recursion in them anyways. You can summon out any of your zombies though, your Necro World or your Doom King, whatever.
Okay, and also I noticed like a bunch of people playing probably like 2 of this and 1 of that.
Right.
What do you kind of think about that? And like,
well, I used to run Cursed Eldland at 2, and I think it's better it's a card you want to see in your opening hand, I think, every time. So I prefer it at 3. I used to run it at 2, and I used to run this at 1, and I used to also run, off and on, I would run White Awakening, which is the quick play spell that summons from hand or graveyard. The reason I chose this is because this summons from the deck. Okay, and then I play 3 super. This is definitely a card that you can run at 2. Most people would probably say it should be run at 2. But with Zombie World, with the abundance of dark monsters, and the Shaddolls going around right now, there's just so many good targets for Super Poly. You can run it at 2. I don't think there's a problem with that. I just went ahead and did it for 3. I normally do run at 3, or at 2, but I just decided to try it out at 3 this time. 3 Pot of Extravagance. This card's essential in my opinion. Eldlich, it's got a great grind game because all of your spell traps recur, throughout your turns. But it's a really resource-heavy deck at the same time. You play a lot of stuff that doesn't have recursions, like Super Poly, like Infinite Impermanence that once and done. I really think you need draw power in this deck. I think this is actually better than Prosperity. I think Prosperity is a better card, but in this deck, you want more resources as opposed to getting the one card to combo off. There's not really a combo in this deck. It's resource-based, so this is better in this deck build than Prosperity. And of course, the Desires, it's not good in this deck.
Right, yeah, because you're playing pretty much an Eldritch control deck, so you don't really even need to use your extra deck. Just pretty much it's pretty much a pot of greed.
Exactly, pretty much. I've got a couple links, but fusions is really what you're looking for.
Yep.
Best card for Eldlich, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, is Scarlet Sanguine. So this summons any zombie from your deck or graveyard, but if you don't control Eldlich, you can only summon Eldlich monsters with this effect. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually banish this from your graveyard at any phase. It's not an end phase only. So you can actually banish this during your opponent's main phase. If they try and banish it themselves, you can chain it. As long as you've not used the other effect, you can only use one of the effects per turn. But you can banish this and then set a golden land spell or trap for your deck, so that's a great card. It's great to get Eldlich on the field, but it's even better to get out stuff like Doom King on the field when you've already got an Eldlich. That's used as effect that can't be destroyed until your opponent's end phase, has 3,500 attack. It's great to spring out a Doom King when you already have that. Probably the second best card for Eldlich is the Conquistador. Non-targeting destruction of a face-up card. That's the one downside. You can't, do face-down cards, but anything that's face-up you can destroy. So that's a really good card. Now here's where this deck differs a lot. So I only play 1 Hawk Arrow and 1 Guardian.
All right.
A lot of people will do 2 Hawk Arrows, sometimes 3, and almost nobody plays Guardian.
Okay, so kind of talk about Guardian, because pretty much everybody knows what Hawk Arrow does.
Right.
Talk about Guardian, like what kind of led you to playing this card today?
Guardian is essentially a stall card. Some decks, Hawk Arrow is really good against. A lot of decks, if you banish a particular card out of the graveyard, you can wreak some havoc on them. But some decks don't really care as much about that. But Guardian's a great stall card. So what Guardian does is you special summon it as a normal zombie, level 8. And it has 2,500 defense. I think its attack's like 800, so you're always going to do defense. So that's different. The Hawk Arrow and the Conquistador are both level 5s, and they're both around the 1800s. But this has 2,500 defense, and if you control Eldlich the Golden Lord, you can non-targeting cause one of your opponent's monsters to lose their attack all the way to 0. So you get to take one of their monsters to 0, and it's 2,500. In a lot of matchups, that can buy you a turn, at least save you some life points. Sometimes they might not be able to beat over those, but even if they can, it'll hopefully save your life to another turn. So I like one of each. Also, it's another name, so I only play the 2, the black and the Scarlet Sanguines, or the Elixirs. But if you have, 2 Hawk Arrows in your graveyard, you can only activate one of their effects in the end phase, to get recursion. If you control a Guardian and a Hawk Arrow, you can activate them both. So it's just kind of an extra name. 3 Infinite Impermanence, really the only hand trap that I play in the main deck. This card's phenomenal, obviously. the greatest thing about this card is that you can use it at any time. As long as you don't control a card, you can activate it from your hand on your turn. I think in most of the time it's better to hold this until your turn and then start trying to dismantle your opponent's board. But if you know a deck really well, if you know their choke point, you can definitely shut their combo off. But you've got to really know the meta, and you've got to really know your opponent kind of to a degree to do that. But of course also, and a lot of people do this, but it seems like this is kind of slept on a little bit though, is you can negate all the spell trap cards in this column if you set it first. So that's a great thing too. And then last a couple cards, we got There Can Be Only One, I'm playing 2, and then Rivalry of Warlords, I'm playing 2. I'm kind of experimenting with these. So these are very similar cards, but they're different. So with There Can Be Only One, each player can only control one monster of each type. So for some decks, that doesn't matter. Like you might have a spellcaster, a fairy, a machine, whatever. But for stuff like Floowandereeze or Bird Up, pretty much everything they got is Winged Beast, so they can only control one at a time. And the crazy thing about this is that you can't even link it off, you can't tribute it off, you can't attempt to summon in any way a monster from anywhere else that is the same type as what you control on the field. So it really shuts some decks down. The problem is it's really slow. It even slows down my deck. It's just a crawl and grind game. It's not very fun. So it can save your life for sure. Rivalry of the Warlords is much better for this deck, because if you have Zombie World on the field with this, all monsters in the graveyard on both sides of the field are zombies. You can get your full board out. You can have 2 Eldliches, a Doom King plus your trap monsters, but your opponent can only control, if they've got, one monster on the field, it's now a zombie. Most people don't play zombie cards, so they cannot attempt to summon anything but zombies. So it completely shuts most players' boards down while sparing your own. One way to out this card, if you don't have background removal though, is the graveyard, because all your monsters in the graveyard are also zombies. So if you can special summon them, you can still special summon them. This card won't affect you. Lastly, and this is the only change I think I'm going to make to this deck, I got Dimensional Barrier at 2. I think I'm going to put that in the side deck. I used this one time tonight and it didn't seem to make much of a difference. All the other cards I used tonight to pretty good success, I think, but this card didn't get used at all. I was really thinking I was going to see a lot more Shaddolls tonight, and I have used it before against fusions, but didn't really work out well tonight. So that's probably going to go in the side deck. But other than that, I'm very happy with this deck. I think it's solid. It's definitely a floodgate deck. It's designed to last longer than your opponent, out-resource them, grind them to death, while restricting them from play.
Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into your side deck here real quick.
Okay. Side deck, I play 3 Drone Lockbird. I think this is probably one of the best hand traps in the game right now. Infinite Permanence and Draw, they're just absolutely amazing. Decks like Floowandereeze, you just instantly shut this deck down. Every single move they make is involving a card added to their hand from their deck. Other decks, Bird Up, it can hinder them a little bit. Some decks it doesn't do much against. This deck, like if you were in a mirror match, this card would be worthless, because Eldlich adds to hand maybe once a turn, But some decks is really good. Play 3 Artifact Lancia. It's a pretty good card. Just about every deck relies on banishing at some point for their combo. Not every deck does, but most do. So it may not be a game changer, but it can definitely shut down or slow down some combos. Tri Brigade has to banish as cost for some of their cards, and their whole thing is about banishing. So if you activate this during their standby on their first turn, their turn's pretty much over unless they have an out to that.
Okay, well, how much impactful was it to how much did you see these cards sided whenever you sided in?
I did not side in Droll this week today at all. I sided in Lancia twice. One time I saw it, I used it once, and the other time I didn't see it at all.
Okay.
And then I'm playing 6 back row outs because I know there's a lot of Mystic Mind going around. I'm playing Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 Twin Twisters, and then 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, just because Cosmic Cyclone has a cost. It's minor. It's 1,000 life points. But in a grind game, a lot of times you'll have very low life points, and then you'll come back from nothing. I had that a couple times tonight. I was like 2,000 or 1,000 life points. My opponent was near full health, and I won. So that extra 1,000 that Cosmic would have cost me could have killed me. I don't feel like it was necessary. If you're going against Sky Strikers, you don't want to put a spell in their graveyard. But a lot of decks it doesn't really matter. So as experimentation, I normally do run the Cosmic Cyclones, but I was okay with this.
Okay, so if you had the chance to play Lightning Storm, would you play Lightning Storm over maybe MST or?
Yeah, I think I would. I might keep these though. I might do these. I'm not sure, but I would like to add Lightning Storm to this deck eventually. I just don't have it at the moment. I like to do it though. And then lastly is the Dark Ruler No More. I do play that at 3. If you've got 3 of these and 3 of Lava Golem, you've got a very high chance mathematically of pulling at least one of them in your opening hand. I don't know that you would really need that much interruption for your opponent's board, but if they've got a God board, if you're playing against Drytron, or some deck that you just, they're going to have a crazy board that you can't play around, it's a good card to have. Dark Ruler No More is great.
All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and get right into your extra deck that is just basically probably a bunch of super poly targets, right?
Yeah, mostly. Right now, I've only got 4 links in here.
Okay.
This Eldlich does not link climb very much, and part of the reason is the traps are normal monsters. So, you can't really use them as much as you could if they were effect monsters. Like, you couldn't use them for Verte Anaconda. I used to put that in here as a super poly target to get super poly on the field. I don't now. Sucker and Avendroid Slayer, these are your 2 zombie links. They're really good. I think, especially playing Extravagance, I think it would be better to run 2 of each. That way you always statistically have a very good chance of having them, even if you banish a lot of your extra deck. Sucker's main effect is that you want to use is if a monster is special summoned from either graveyard, I think it has to be a zombie, then you get to draw a card. So sometimes you can use this on your turn. You can actually also have your opponent special summon a monster. It becomes a zombie, but you don't want to give them a free monster if you can avoid it. So you can use this 2 turns in a row though. Your Doom King on your opponent's standby will come up. You get a card. And then if you find a way to summon from the graveyard on your turn before that, you can draw 2 cards. Avendroid Slayer is a battle effect monster. During the damage step or during the battle phase, whenever you declare an attack, you get a quick effect. You send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then you decrease the attack of the monster that you're attacking into by the level times I think by 200. So if you send Eldlich, which is a level 10 monster, you're decreasing their attack by 2,000.
All right, awesome. So yeah, we gotta check out this this nice little alti Blacklister Soldier for sure.
I pulled that today.
Yeah,
really excited. I've been wanting this card for a while. Occasionally, I've been playing Eldlich for about a year now, and occasionally you'll need a Link 3, and I couldn't really find anything that I was pleased with. There aren't really any good zombie Link 3s at the moment. There's a Mayakashi one coming out, I believe, next year. That's going to be pretty good. But there wasn't really one that I thought was good. I didn't use it tonight. Like I said, it's not something that you will normally get to do more than Link 2 with Eldlich, but it does come up every now and then. Sure. And of course, everyone knows Unicorn's a great card. Like I said, I would like to do 2 of each of these, so 4 total, and these could probably be removed, but they're still great cards, and I'm super excited to have this BLS. And then the rest is all fusions. Play 2 of the Golden Lord fusion. Or actually, I thought I did. I must have taken it out. Only got 1. This is a great card. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. So even if they are able to get a beater on the field over 3,800, or if they're able to get its attack, decreased or negated or whatever, it still can't be destroyed. It has an effect that it's a spell speed 1 that you contribute 1 monster you control, zombie monster you control, and you can take one of your opponent's monsters and to your field. And I believe that is permanent. You don't have to give it back. But you can attack or activate its effects at turns. I have hardly ever used that. It's just too slow of an effect, unless you were trying to link it off or something to get rid of something. It's just too slow for me. I don't use that. Really, the best way to use this card is when you've got your Eldlich on the field. He's gotten his effect where he's 3,500 attack, can't be destroyed. And then you have one of your traps. They're all either level 5 or level 8. And so you attack for, somewhere around 5,000, and then you can super poly from your hand during the battle phase, bring him out for another 38, and that'll pretty much win you the game in 1 turn. So that's a really nice thing. 1 Predaplant, Chimera Phlesia. This card is really good. I only used it once tonight. I don't play Anaconda in this build. I used to for this card's reason. I don't at the moment. But a lot of players, of course, they're still using Predaplant. Even with Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer's ability to actually activate the spell from the hand, a lot of players are playing at 3. A lot of players are still also using Predaplant, so it's a great card. This requires 1 Predaplant monster plus 1 Dark, so it's pretty good. It has a spell speed 1, target and banish 1 monster on the field. That's pretty good. But also during the battle phase, whatever monster attacks, I believe, loses 1,000 attack points, and this card gains 1,000. So that's pretty powerful too. And then, of course, on top of all this, the standby phase, and this includes your opponent's standby phase. After this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add any fusion or polymerization, I believe, to your hand. So I did this tonight one time. I got to add Super Poly to my hand after I'd already used it. It went to the graveyard, and I was able to get that back the next turn, another Super Poly. I actually used all 3 of my Super Polys. That was the only time I did it tonight. Normally I go through 1, maybe 2. But one game tonight, I actually got through all 3 of them. That's quite rare, though. That's really nice. If you do play Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, this can add you the Fusion Destiny, which is pretty cool. Some people will play this with the Dogmatic Engine, to send one of your extra deck monsters to the graveyard. Some people play this just to get that card. So. Play 1 Drago Necro Nether Soul Dragon. This card's not amazing. It's just in here for a super play target. It just requires 2 zombie monsters. So it doesn't matter what your opponent has. They could have a god board with Omni Negates. They can't respond to super poly. So as long as you got zombie world on the field, they're all zombies. Super poly, you can make this. It's got 3,000 attack. It cannot destroy monsters by battle. So when it attacks a monster, if it has an original level, I believe is how it says, that monster's attack goes to 0. Then you get to summon a token equal to that card's original level and attack, and you can keep attacking. So it's a good card, but it's mainly played because it's 2 zombies. So, and honestly, this could be played at 2 as well. Okay, and then I do play 2 Starving Venom Fusion Dragons, of course, just because it's probably the best super poly target in the game. It's just 2 dark monsters. And then, of course, when it's destroyed, you can destroy all your opponent's special summon monsters. When it's summoned until the end of the turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls. It gains attack. I'm not sure if it's all the attack or just some of it, but it's a good card. Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. This card is very situational because when you use the Eldlich spell or traps to summon from the deck, hand, or graveyard, they all lock you into zombies. So you can't special summon anything except for zombies. So it's kind of hard to get 2 Eldliches on the field in the same turn without locking yourself into zombies. You kind of have to have one through your opponent's turn, then the end phase summon another. But if you do, you can overlay into this rank 10 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. You can detach 1 material and burn your opponent for 2,000. If you're able to get an Eldlich on the field, his attack is 25, and then you're able to get the other one through his graveyard effect at 3,500. You're at 6,000 if you're able to attack them directly. And then in your main phase 2, you go into this, you detach, that's no TK in 1 turn. There's another Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon card, I can't remember what it's called, but you can actually burn them and then overlay again into it, and it has 4,000 attack. And then you can detach a material, and it can attack your opponent's monsters up to the number of materials.
Yeah, Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Leeb, I believe it is.
Leeb, something like that. That's a great card too. I don't have it at the moment. Like I said, it's situational. Like a lot of times you can't use this, and if you're using Rivalry of Warlords, or there can only be 1, you can't use it. So it's not like your main win condition, but and I didn't use it at all tonight, but I have before. And then the last target that I've been using for a while is Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Sometimes I'll run this at 2. This is a great super poly target if Zombie World is not on the field, because it takes 2 monsters of the same attribute but different types. So it's physically impossible to use this if Zombie World is on the field, but if it's not, and there's no dark monsters on the field, a lot of times you can get this off. Its effect is not great. I did win a game with it like a couple months ago. I think that's the only time it's ever really won me a game. It's got a quick effect that you can change the attribute of this card to water, but you can change it to anything else, and then monsters with that attribute cannot be targeted. So if your opponent were to try to target your Eldlich, which a lot of people think that card can't be targeted, Eldlich has no targeting protection at all. It has a destruction protection. It can't be destroyed by card effect. So if you have him on the field and his effect is activated, and you have Mud Dragon, someone tries to target your Eldlich, you just change Mud Dragon to Swamp, change it to Light attribute, and then your Eldlich cannot be targeted or be destroyed. So it's niche, but it does come in handy sometimes. And then lastly, I just added these in today, and I didn't use them at all because I didn't play anyone. I don't think I played it. Yeah, I played one Shadal maybe, but I didn't get a chance to use this. So I got Construct, Apgalone, Invoked Mechaba, and then Winda. And these are in here just because they're easy to make. Not only can you super poly both of your opponent's monsters to get these out, but like Construct is a Shadal monster plus a light monster. Well, Eldlich and his trap card monsters are all lights. So that's right there. Another Alistair plus a light. Winda is Dark Monster, so you could do Doom King, you could do Necro World Banshee. I mean, of course, it's better to use your opponent's monsters, but you know, if you're able to stop their play and get rid of one of their monsters, not a bad gig. I'll probably will keep at least 2 of these in here, maybe the Invoked and maybe the Construct, just because it's a Shadal plus light. Ultimately, though, the extra deck's not really that big a deal in Eldlich. You know, it's a control slow trap deck, and the extra deck's not super important. My ideal deck going forward, I'd like to do 2 Sucker, 2 Avendroid, 2 Cannon, 2 Golden Lord, 2 Starving Venom, and then really you can kind of do anything from there. I think this is your core. The Avendroid Slayer and the Vampire Sucker, they really do come in clutch a lot. I didn't use them a lot this night, but normally I do with Eldlich. The reason I didn't use them though is because I kept banishing them with my pot cards. So that's the reason I want to play them at 2. This right here I think is a kind of a core lineup. And also maybe Drago Necro, so I only run him at 1. I don't think you need 2. It's pretty rare that you can't find a different super poly target. You know, if you've got Zombie World on the field, you can always do Eldlich. He just requires Eldlich plus 1 level 5 or higher zombie, so you don't necessarily need him at 2. That's pretty much it. You can kind of fill in the rest of the extra deck as you wish. I used to run the Link 4 Mayakashi card. That card's got an incredible effect. If a card or effect is activated in the graveyard, it's a trigger effect. I think you can target 1 monster on the field and negate its effects till the end of turn, and you can use that twice per turn. It's pretty good, but it's really just hard and inconsistent to get a Link 4 out playing this deck. So I took that out a long time ago. They are making there is a Link 3 Mayakashi coming out next year, I believe, and also there's a trap card that will work with Mayakashi or Shiranu cards, and it basically, if you control the Shiranu or Mayakashi, it completely prevents your opponent from summoning from their graveyard, extra deck, or hand, I believe. So it's kind of like a zombie version of the Harpy card that a lot of Winged Beast players play, that you can't activate effects for this turn. It's kind of like that, but with summoning. A lot of people think it's going to be very powerful. I do, and like I said, I don't currently play a Mayakashi build or Shiranu in here, but I think that I think it would have good synergy with this, and I think that when it comes out, I think it's going to change the Eldlich deck.
Okay, so a lot of people that play Eldlich, they play like Link Spider and like Concealer Palladius and Zeus.
Right.
So what's kind of your thought process of not playing those cards versus the other cards you played?
I had Constellar in here the last time I played here, and I wasn't able to make it a single time. At least when I played then, I wasn't able to get 2 of my rank. It's a rank 5, and I was not able to get both of my Hakero and Conquistador on the field in the same turn and not have one of them be destroyed by my opponent very often. So it wasn't consistent enough for me to be able to summon it. It's a good card. It's a pop. It's a return to deck, I believe, return to hand, 1 of the 2. It's a compulsory evacuation device for a monster, maybe. It's a good card. It's just I wasn't able to get those cards out on the field as much. And maybe that's because I don't play a lot of Hakero. Like I said earlier, a lot of players will do 3 Hakero, 3 Conch, or 2 Hakero. I just do the 1. So maybe that's why. But I wasn't able to have a lot of luck with that. I think a Zeus would be really good with this build, and it's just not something that I've experimented with. But the Constellar, the Pleiades cards, those are definitely good cards. I just haven't used them in here.
Okay, so you didn't play any Dogmatica cards. What's your thought process with that? Because a lot of people like playing Dogmatica with Eldlich,
right.
But we didn't see that in your build, so kind of talk about that a little bit.
Actually, last week here I played Dragon Link actually, and I went against an Eldlich player, and he was playing not the zombie version build, but he was playing the Dogmatica build, and I won both games in a row. And I played. I think he might have won 1 actually. I think he won the first and I won the other 2. But I sided in Dinko Sekka and completely shut him down. But even with his Dogmaticas, he wasn't really able to get any presence on the board. I did experiment with the Dogmatica version of this. I didn't like it. I don't think you can do Zombie World and Dogmatic. I think you have to do one or the other because they're both an engine, right? Like you can play Eldlich without Zombie World, but if you play him, then you're going to want to, do Zombie World, Necro Banshee, and Doom King, possibly even Zombie. If you're going to cut out that engine, then that gives you the perfect amount of space to run the Dogmatic engine. I didn't like it. For me, maybe it's just the way I play. It didn't really help me out at all, and seemed to have worse luck with it. So I think that the Zombie engine is much better. Zombie World itself shuts down some decks. Flunneries cannot play with Zombie World on the field. They can't tribute summon at all. Dragons, of course, no one's really playing Dragons right now, other than me, but Dragons cannot play with this deck. Some decks can play right through Zombie World like it's nothing, but that's why you have Rivalry of Warlords. It completely shuts them down from monster summoning. And then, of course, Doom King, has a negate and a banish. So I personally like the Zombie World engine. But I don't think you can play them both. I think you have to either play Zombie World Eldlich or Dogmatic Eldlich. I think they conflict too much, basically in space. So I personally do think the Zombie variant is a little bit better, though.
All right, awesome. Do you have any shout-outs or anything you'd like to end the video with here?
No, I'm just thankful for this locals. Like, it's a great place. Great people here. They're respectful, they're kind. Great store, great customer service. It's just a great place to be. I'm super pumped to be here. This is the first time I've ever won, and I'm not a guy who brags a lot. I'm just thankful to get here. I think there were a lot of good players here tonight, and I'm just happy to be here.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe for more War 1 guaranteed videos.